Welcome to A Teaspoon of Healing, where we explore the pathways to wellness and vibrant living. Listen to personal stories of healing and interviews with experts. It's time to open a doorway to healing in your life through positive changes. Here is your host, Dawn Damari.
Hi, I'm Dawn Damari, and you're listening to another episode of A Teaspoon of Healing. This week's topic is men's emotional and mental health. Men's emotional health is often neglected when we talk about this topic, and it's very important. My guest is Shawn Brown. He grew up in the town I currently live in, Laguna Beach, California, which is a beautiful town and a very fun town. Sometimes it can be a little too much fun. So Shawn is going to talk about some of his experiences with that growing up as a youth in this town. And he's also going to be talking about recovery and a recovery center that he and another person who lives here founded. So we're going to talk about that and a lot more.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Please consult a physician or other health professional before undertaking changes in lifestyle or wellness habits. The author claims no responsibility to any person or entity for any liability, loss, or damage caused or alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of use, application, or interpretation of the information presented herein.
And before we get into our interview, let's hear from one of our sponsors, Goff Tours.
Hi, this is Goff, owner of Goff Tours, specializing in stand-up paddleboarding or surfing lessons. I even do snorkeling. You can reach me here. Orange County has what you're looking for. You can contact me via email at gofftours@gmail.com or mobile number is 949-338-5937, gofftours.com.
Hi, I'm Dawn Damari, and you're listening to A Teaspoon of Healing. Well, today the topic is men's health, men's emotional health, mental health. With me today is my guest, Shawn Brown. He's a Laguna Beach local. And hello, Shawn.
Hey, Dawn. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Just enjoying this beautiful Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, me too. It's beautiful. And thank you for joining me today on A Teaspoon of Healing.
Yeah, no problem. I'm really surprised we finally got our kids, in line so we can do this. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited.
So, Shawn, the topic today is men's health, and we're going to specifically talk about emotional health, mental health. You grew up in the town I live in. I didn't grow up here, but I've lived here off and on for quite a while, and yeah. Laguna Beach. And this is a topic that is near and dear to your heart. And you're also involved with a recovery center in the town of Laguna Beach.
Yeah. A friend of mine, Ed Cardenas, called me recently and asked me to work on a project with him. That's the Laguna Beach Recovery Services, just specifically for locals. So we actually have our first meeting coming up in the next week or so. So that's exciting. We should have an update there soon. My story and journey with this stuff, where I wanted to engage with you, was because growing up in town, it's kind of weird. People don't realize in small towns like Laguna, per capita, the amount of drug use that goes on is just ridiculous. Because, all my friends, when we grew up, you have friends who have a lot of excess. And there's a lot of cash around. We're at the beach. We have a bunch of tourists coming in the summertime and all the fun bars, all the beautiful women, beautiful men, whatever. But with that being said, I lost a lot of my best friends to drugs and alcohol when we were all young. Looking back, sometimes I also am pretty surprised I'm still around, to be honest with you. Seriously, what a blessing that is. But that's kind of what prompted me to want to talk to you, because I know that a lot of men out there probably do not have resources or place to start as far as where do I go, what do I do? And we don't really take enough time to pay attention to ourselves to recognize there may even be an issue. So I luckily opted to do that for myself, and I just wanted to kind of share what that experience was like for people who are looking for some guidance on where you start, what you look at. And typically what I'd say is mostly in the mirror, but that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
For me specifically, I had a lot of death when I was young. My mother bought a business in Laguna Beach in 1987. We were all instantly welcomed in town, whatnot. And it was actually a video store off of Calliope Glen called Video Station. Super old school. Anybody who's been in town for a long time knows what that place is. Most of my friends I met through my mother and their parent, obviously coming and renting videos back then. That was great. In the middle of high school, my mom actually had a heart attack and got sick and ended up having to move away. Oddly enough, I'm one of the few kids in town who was actually raised by the town as a community. So I have several families that have taken me in for holidays and weddings, funerals, all that stuff. So I really look at the community as more of a family for me as opposed to even a community.
I love that. There's not a lot of towns out there that do that. So that's something that's very special?
I'd say I would kind of call it a kindred spirit about Laguna Beach, to where we all embrace each other for who we are and do what we need to do with that.
Yes.
But interestingly enough, after I got out of high school and whatnot, I graduated in 1994. I ended up going away to college in Santa Cruz, and I came back, ended up working at the Sandpiper. Now, the funny part about that is I see all these guys I went to school with, and I see them in a different format, right? Before we were playing football together and hanging out and all that stuff. Then now we're out in the social scene doing the thing. I've seen a lot of people that came from nothing rise to the top, and I've seen a lot of people that were at the top go directly to the bottom. Especially when Ed called me a couple weeks ago. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about, is what happened to the old bros? Like, what happened to this guy and that guy we grew up with? And I'm obviously not going to mention anyone's names here, but it's pretty depressing to see that there's people out there that have resources in excess and family and friends that, totally love them and still end up in these deep, dark places. So what I was getting at is, for me, I felt really bad that I was never really there, or at least I interpreted it. I wasn't there. Like, if I had a friend commit suicide, I was like, well, how was it I missed them, or why didn't they call me up, or how was it that they didn't know how much I loved them and I would be there for them if they were to ask? And that's when I realized for myself that there really was not a safe space for men to really go to and go, hey, you know what? I'm kind of fucked up right now. I don't know what to do. So I started looking in the mirror and started looking at solutions on that for myself, because obviously, with grief associated with death and whatnot, I mean, I had an enormous amount of death as a child. I probably lost 9 family members in the first 10 years of my life. Half my family was actually gunned down in a church up in Los Angeles. Different story, but
oh my God, it's
not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. I looked at all that stuff as a way for me to kind of look within and figure out, okay, I know this is an issue. Yeah, I know I like to drink, I know I like to party, whatnot, but how do we get past this stuff, right? And oddly enough, I started taking care of myself in a way where I started using Google first to go and just look at, different blogs and different perspectives of different men's groups discussing different aspects of mental health and issues that other people were having. And I also took due diligence to look at women's groups too, for perspective, to make sure that there's nothing I was missing, right? So didn't want this to be a one-sided conversation for myself.
Okay, good.
After that was all kind of squared up for me, and I kind of had a foundation where I felt comfortable admitting that I might have had a problem, right? Next thing I did is start communicating with my friends that I had a problem. Like, hey guys, I know that I am semi-successful. I know that I work well. I know I'm super social. I know I have a relatively happy life, but there's something that's kind of bugging me. And then that allowed me to expand that conversation into a much bigger conversation, to realize, wait a minute, Shawn, you're even less alone than you might have thought you were in your thoughts, right?
Right.
That's what I would call my personal phase 2.
Okay.
After I achieved that courage for myself, then I ended up going to my doctor, my normal doctor, a guy named Scott Greenspan, San Juan Capistrano. Excellent doctor. He's retired just recently. I miss him. He was there with me through the loss of my mother and some other stuff and whatnot. And, I had a business shut down a few years back. That was crazy, but I was pretty stressed out. And I went in there, and first we were talking about Xanax and all this other stuff. And he really encouraged me to take more of a holistic approach to that. And so
good.
In the temporary, I used to have these anxiety attacks, and I was taking Xanax, and that was fine.
Yeah.
But the problem is, when you start taking Xanax, right? Let's say, for example, you're a social guy like me.
Yes.
I could take a Xanax at 9 a.m., right? Because I'm freaking out about something with work or something financial or something with my family, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then by 8 o'clock, I forgot that I even had the issue. So by then, I'm back to my little, social butterfly self. I'm out doing stuff, whatever. And say I might have a cocktail or two, right? Next thing you know, that one cocktail that I had feels to me like I've had 7, because I literally forgot.
Well, yeah, because mixing that, yeah.
Right.
And it's also very addictive. And when it drops off, there's a rebound anxiety.
Right.
It was pretty bad. So they have to be careful with it. And it's so wonderful to find doctors that want to take a holistic approach. But I'm not knocking the use of it, because I know it's there and it can save lives. When you're having an actual panic attack and you feel like you're going to die. You don't know if you're having a heart attack or what. So it's useful. So I'm not knocking anyone, but I get it.
To say the least, I got to expand on that, though. I have to expand on that. It's just too funny.
Okay, sure.
Honest to God truth. My mother's funeral, right? I'm a hands-on guy. Anybody that knows me, I like to be front and center. So I showed up at my mom's funeral, half an hour before everybody else got there. So they're wheeling her into the church as I get there, and the guys didn't know that I was actually her son. They actually had me help her, which is, I guess, inappropriate. I wouldn't have made it through that day without 2 things: my buddy John Rainey and Xanax.
Of course.
Straight up, because there was nothing. I was inconsolable, and I'm just trying to get through that. So I completely am telling you right now, everyone has their own situation and their own path. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just telling you how it worked for me. just for perspective.
I get it.
Yeah, but the whole thing with moving back beyond that, after I'd say a good year of managing panic attacks with Xanax and playing stuff off still, I had to get real raw with myself. And I ended up going back to Scott, my doctor, and I go, Scott, I think I need a referral to actually go talk to a mental health professional. I want to go do that. And I'm not sure if people are aware or not. You have two schools of thought. There's the psychological thought process, and then there's also the psychiatric thought process.
Right.
I'm not a fan of anybody. I mean, to each his own. I wouldn't let my son or anybody else go directly into psychiatry without looking at the psychology behind it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like about self-managing, right? Like you have to figure out how to manage your own emotions. And I think that the message I wanted to put out to everyone here is part of doing that for me, at least, you guys, was I had to really get out of my own way and look at me first. Like everything had to be my fault first for a month. Didn't matter what happened. Someone could walk up and hit me in the head. It was still my fault. And lo and behold, occasionally it was true, right? Interestingly enough, as I progressed through that, I went to a counseling center that I got a referral. The referral takes forever to get to. That's the tough part too, Dawn.
It does.
It took me probably 6 to 8 weeks to get a referral. I think I missed my first appointment, and I was devastated because I was looking forward to it. And I'd been trying to manage all these things I had going on without getting to that appointment first. So when I finally got there, it was interesting because I sat down with my doctor at the time, and I'm not going to say her name either, HIPAA stuff, whatever. She is a little fire plug 29-year-old girl, very, very intelligent young woman. But I just walked in and I go, look, my name is Shawn Brown, and I'm just going to lay it on you. I mean, if we're going to do this, I have to promise you I'll be honest, right? That's number one. And I go, I promise I'm going to be naked. Not really naked, but I'm going to be naked with you in regards to us talking. She asked me where I wanted to start at, and I recall kind of starting with my childhood, right? I went into some things about that where I was like, this kind of confused me about this, and this was an issue here, and the more and more we started to dig through the mud of my emotional trauma, it became very apparent that everything that I thought was a problem wasn't really the problem. Turns out that I have a problem saying no.
Right.
It's I always want everybody to win. I always want to be in the mix with stuff. I always want to people smiling and happy.
Right.
But at times you can also have great intentions with that, but still take yourself the wrong way. And so I really wasn't putting myself first, right? I was always doing what I needed to do for everybody else. And it also turned out that I felt a bit of, obligation or commitment because remember, the town we're talking about, our hometown, Laguna Beach,
yes,
that town raised me. Not just one person here or there. It's top of my head, the Rainies, the Dunlops, the Marks, the Michelskis, the Westgards, those people are all family to me. I mean, these people are at my birthdays. We've laughed together, cried together. So it's different because we're kind of like pistons. Some of us are up sometimes and some of us are down other times, but neither of us are ever really judging each other.
Right.
But I think that part of this conversation and part of the stuff that we got going on right now is more so to look at the younger generations, right?
Yes.
Because now in this culture of options that we live in, right? I mean, everyone's, unfortunately, people date. Not me, you guys. At least anymore, but the whole Tinder things that takes our whole deal in a whole different direction.
No, I can imagine.
For me
there's just available options for everything, for dating. It just seems like for everything, to be honest, there's always the next best thing. You're going on social media, you're looking at everybody else's highlights reels and seeing their vacations or their new house, their new car, their perfect relationship, which oftentimes is not perfect, and you find out they're divorced or broken up with 3 months later. Where did that come from? Because they always look perfect,
Exactly.
But it always looks like there's an infinite amount of people you can be connected with. There's a lot of options available to younger people that we didn't have. I'm a little older than you, not much, but I am.
Yeah, you're totally right. But the weird thing is about us Generation Xers, right? Before millennials came, we've kind of been the last generation to actually have what I call a pre-digital.
Yes.
Engagement as Americans, right? I used to have to meet my friends on the corner and be like, "Oh, hey Bob, we're gonna hang out at 2:30." It's okay, I'll meet you downtown by Starbucks, at 2 o'clock. Or I'll meet you in the food court, or I'll meet you on the beach. And there was an art.
Yeah, but there were no texts oh my God, I'm 5 minutes away. Where are you? You just had to trust that you would meet, and we would meet. It would happen.
Right. And so, oddly enough, I feel like we're the last generation to really be able to even sell food if you get into it. Because, now I think the youngsters call it, they don't have any feels. They don't want to feel anything, Well, they do a fairly good job of it. But it's also our job to, kind of bridge that gap for them and give them some resources about directions you can take should you choose that you need to go and deal with something, right? We just don't want people out there that feel like they can't talk to their friends or their family or or know that as a community, we're here to do our part. Because, I mean, here's the thing. It's very easy to sit there and judge and go, okay, well, this guy's doing this or that guy's doing that. But most people I know have done everything we're talking about. Most people I know in that whole place. Right. And I was there for most of it, so I'm not going to even try and call anybody out. I'm just going to say, we only have a certain amount of time to be effective on this planet. And right now, I think that all the people that I love and adore that I grew up with, you know, we've really done a fairly decent job of trying to increase that conversation. And it takes us also to kind of self-improve at the same time, right? So it's exciting. I mean, I'm really proud of Ed. I don't know if everyone knows Ed Cardenas from Laguna Beach, or even if you don't, he's a great guy. I actually played football with his cousin Manny back in the day. So they're like family to me. I just saw them, you know, a few weeks ago when we lost a dear friend of ours.
And he started the recovery center.
Yeah. Ed called me up and he goes, hey, there's something I want to work on. And, you know, I was pretty busy at the time, but I finally got back to him and he lets me know. He's like, some of our buddies from high school are living up on the streets in Huntington, or this guy's got kicked out of his house, whatever, you know, stuff like that. I'm like, wow, okay. So what we did is, without actually talking about that, because I mean, it's a problem if you want to take this information and go use that as some sort of story to champion for other people, or even make it about yourself, it gets ruined immediately. We have kept the strictest privacy on what everyone's got going on, but discreetly offered services up there and offered volunteers that we know from various aspects. As far as, I mean, we're talking about Eddie's involvement is to talk about drug and alcohol abuse. But I mean, there's people that have come to us that actually would like watch your children for you so you can go to a meeting, or post things at their homes, or just the little stuff that makes a difference when people are stressed out. Right. And we largely live in a society now to where it's not a comfortable space for you to be able to be honest, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're straight or gay, it doesn't matter, to be like, hey, this is what's going on with me. I'd like to address this issue. And, you know, you're supposed to be my friend. Can we talk about this? People don't offer you the time for that. Now it's like, oh, yeah, well.
No, not anymore.
Want to go have a cocktail, see you at Sapphire, or meet you at the Bird at midnight? And that's all great, right? But it's a bunch of BS. I mean, we really need to evolve. I mean, what's the point of being from a place like Laguna? No, if we're from Laguna, right, we got to be a bit more of an example, even in our mistakes. So that gets lost sometimes. I think that I would just try and say, I'd encourage anybody out there who has any questions about any sort of resource they might need, feel free to send me an email. I mean, my email address is to Shawn. My name's Shawn Jamal Brown. But anyways, it's TISHAWN, B as in boy, @gmail.com. Just drop me a note, and I'm more than happy to put anybody in touch with the number of resources that we have. I often ask myself, like, you surely know a lot of people, Shawn, for really being a nobody. I'm like, yeah, you know, that's right. I was being facetious. But what I'm saying is like the blessing for me, the beauty of it is there are so many people that are so willing to be helpful out there, and I'm just happy to know them from any angle, right? Most of these things are free or by donation, and I just think that if we can even save a half a life a year, we're in the right direction. I think that if even 5 people pick up half of what I'm saying, or what we're talking about, then we're doing our part, and that's all we can encourage, that people do their part and have a little bit more conviction and a little bit more vulnerability with each other to know that, you know what, you're never really alone. That's all.
No, you're not. You're not alone. Then there's a guarantee there's somebody else going through what you're going through, either last night or at the same moment or not, or the next day, even if they're not going through the exact same thing, something similar, but you just won't know about it. People don't talk about it. Even if you're really close friends, it's hard to be open. And that's why these resources are needed. If you look online, of course, you're not going to see that. You're just going to see everybody's, you know, happy, and it can be really isolating.
Right. And you know what? I wouldn't feel comfortable having this conversation without adding something else in too. Like when I said that I went and did my due diligence on the female side of things, I really did. There is a doctor that I used to listen to. Her name is Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby.
Okay.
And she's out of Denver. Beautiful woman. I mean, she's just one of the sweetest people. I'd love to meet her in person sometime, but I got a lot of perspective too on a lot of things that go on from a woman's perspective, because that's important too. You have to know the other half to get your own, right?
Right.
That's an excellent resource for women. I mean, if women have things out there, because obviously we all have our issues, I'd recommend her any day of the week for anybody who was looking for some guidance or topics on relationships or life or parenting or losing children, all these different aspects of stuff we face.
Right.
It's important. I'm in the technology business, so for me, I think that made it kind of easier to locate these things, which is why I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. You know, there's people I know who don't really use, you know, podcasts and stuff in the same way I might do it, or maybe you will. But I just think that it's very encouraging to at least be able to be part of the movement to shift people in a direction where they can find stuff that they need to feel safe that much easier.
Right, exactly. That's a great resource. And what was her name again?
Her name was Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby, and I believe she's out of Colorado.
Oh, she's out of Colorado. But so does she have a podcast available?
Yeah, she does. I think it's called
or just maybe Google her.
No, it's called the Love, Happiness, and Relationship Success, whatever. Something along those lines. You can't miss her. She's pretty popular.
Okay.
But the cool thing about her, I really am impressed with how she does things, because she actually has like a multi-state network of therapists set up. So you can actually do video sessions. I believe on her Facebook page, you can go drop information, right? Like you can ask her a question, and she literally will have her or someone from her staff get back to you. So, I mean, that's pretty meaningful.
Right.
Just throwing that out there. To get back to like my sessions, I probably went to, I'd say.
Yeah. How many sessions did you go to when you started therapy?
Probably like 25. It's kind of weird because there's also the financial aspect. We should talk about that for a second, because I have really, really good insurance.
Yes.
Right. And so I'm still paying $30 a pop, but I believe that like in my insurance, when I got the billing for, it's about $230 a session.
Yeah. Honestly, a lot of people, your insurance doesn't even cover. I've gone and it's $150. My insurance doesn't cover it. People, you can't afford to do that and you don't have insurance. That's great that you have one that makes it $30.
Yeah, but it's great that I have that. But I mean, it really kind of pisses me off that like, what if I didn't? I mean, like I would almost wish somebody else that is a little bit worse off than I have could have mine. I could switch with them because I didn't technically need it as much as they would have, right? But that I just want to say that that is part of the whole journey for me. That's part of the intimidation of facing your own mental health, male or female. It's like, okay, how am I going to pay for this too? Because I'm sorry,
exactly.
That's let me see here, almost $120 a month in copays and $1,000 a month in billing.
Yep.
So I just think that also back to why I'm so proud of Ed and the folks over at Blind Faith doing all that work is like basically. These are resources that are going to cost you that kind of money, but that if you were to go through we'll just call it the quote unquote system would. And that's another reason why we're doing these things is essentially to not make it about money. I don't think that like any one person deserves more attention than the next. Anyone who raises their hand, especially in our community, should have a place to feel safe and discuss what it is they go through. Especially with guys that have already been there and done that. Because like I said, it's not like I'm sitting here like some highbrow guy. Like I've never had a cocktail or gotten drunk or done anything stupid. Come on. Anybody knows me knows that's not the case. But I can look and say, you know what? Yeah, I made those mistakes. I might even do it again. But also I can look at other people from a perspective of without judging them and let them know they're less alone. I don't think it'd be possible to talk about this without bringing up a buddy of mine. And this guy I'm going to mention by name because I don't care if he does, whatever. It's one of my boys. My buddy, my brother, Luis Perez III, one of the first friends I've ever had that really got sober. And I believe, you won't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he's been sober about 18 years. And I got to say, first of all,
wow.
Yeah, congratulations, brother, because me and Louis used to be crazy. We were nuts. Like, great time, but I mean, he's still a brother of mine. But I mean, I recall one time, and he'll remember this, we had a conversation where we're like, one day we're going to live our lives and not necessarily need to have all this excess and have all these things that we do. And he's short up on that commitment way more than I have. And I'm really, really proud of him for that. But what I'll tell you is, it's like, I was lucky enough, he tattooed me probably about a year ago. And we don't see each other anywhere near often enough. He's busier than all heck with a bunch of stuff, as am I. But we're still very, very tight. And I just have to say, for me to see the shift in who he is and how he affects the people around him through even his own journey, right? He doesn't make a big deal about it, but I think that it's weird because it just shows me that I'd like to achieve being more of a piece of light or a part of the positivity in things as opposed to just kind of participating, I guess. It's really fun to run into all my friends at the Sandpiper and go, oh, hey, what's going on, and blah, 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 and maybe go to after party, whatever not. But it's a lot more fun to like really be able to embrace somebody and go, hey, you know what? You're good enough to hang out with me, and I love spending time with you just because it's you. And I really enjoy your conversation, and it's really authentic, and it really means something to me because we have an infinite amount of time to spend with people or at places or doing things. I just think that the point of getting a little bit older is to just try and do it in a little more style and class and with the right people.
Now, how can we as a society, men are just not really encouraged to express their emotions. It's getting better, but we both have sons. How can we do better for our sons out there so they can feel that it's okay to talk about these things, okay to have emotions, it's okay to talk to somebody, it's okay to get help before you just, drown them in alcohol or drugs or whatever it is you'll do.
Yeah. And see, it's awesome that you actually asked me this because I worry about this stuff with Noah. Obviously, my son, Noah's 6 years old, and he's a lot like his daddy. So I see him, I'm like, okay, I really need to watch this child now. Like, I can't have him do what I did.
Yeah, it's like my son's like me.
Yeah.
Right.
I would say that the conversation really starts with this. I believe that if you can just spend more of our time doing things with people that might be at risk that don't involve necessarily like having like the Christmas party at your house where everyone's getting loaded, or like not really like necessarily hiding these things from kids, but just not necessarily like broadcasting it either, right? Like, I mean, you don't need to like getting crazy. I think that a lot of kids already have enough with the internet now and everything else, right? To where they can just basically like go watch porn or, do whatever they want to do basically just instantly right there. And I think that what we need to do is get people outside more. I think we need to do things that are more community driven. And I think that, we need to get back to the kind of old school method of where like your neighbor might cuss your kid out if somebody's doing something stupid. I mean, I want my neighbors to call me if my son's doing something weird. We need to become more of a community and have less shame and face these things up front and not from a position of weakness, but understand that if your emotional state into question, or if you're going, hey, this is what I'm feeling, you're not weak, you're actually strong. That's my point, Don, is if you're out there saying what the issues are for you and paying attention to yourself, that's a form of loving yourself, which is the greatest amount of strength you could ever have. Absolutely. So I think that it really is, there's no one answer to that, but I just think it's just kind of trying to create an openness in your home for a conversation and, get off your own goddamn phone too. Excuse my French, but that's the thing too. Like, I mean, people get mad at I never call anybody back. But like when I have Noah or, whatever, I typically take my phone and put it somewhere far, far away and just do that for a while, go for a walk, get out and just do things with him and not make it about that immediacy that life demands. I mean, during the week, I must answer 1,000 emails a week and, I work defense contracts. So, I'm really heavily involved on the technology side with the DoD, but in doing that, I just shut down too. When I'm not around like that work, I don't want to talk about it. I want to think about it. I don't want to post anything. I am obsessed with posting my Instagram pictures of my food and my songs. But besides that, but that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, I know what you mean. But that's an outlet. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, maybe if we could turn our phones off around our children and get them outside more, I think that would be pretty effective. Absolutely. I think that, like, as far as the people that are at the high school level right now, that's a really scary place too. Yes. Because growing up in Laguna, right? I mean, like, when I moved to Laguna Beach, my mom, first year of high school, I remember she took me to Laguna Surf and Sport, gave me like $200. I walked out with a pair of like Bear jean shorts, a pair of Bear jorts, some Sensei sandals, and like a pink polo volleyball shirt. That was my outfit for high school, my first little day. But the pressures there then, I used to think that like I had it rough, right? I could not imagine what these kids go through now, regardless of like, where they come from in the world or what they look like. It's just the pressure is so much more on, is with things being more sexualized now, and not that I'm either way on it, but I'm saying like with just drugs and how they're accepted in Laguna Beach, everything else, right? It's a very, very difficult space, I think, to not have to perform in, I think, right? So I think that people really take a step back on that too. I mean, I think that the cool kids that I grew up with are the ones that are chasing down athletic goals or academic goals. But I can also sit here and tell you that at the time, we didn't look at it that way. We looked at it like we want to go down the short street and smoke cigarettes or go down on the backside and, have a bowl, whatever. I mean, that's just the way it was, right? Right. But there's regret in my heart for that. I mean, I wish I could have seen things a different way. And kind of that's why I'm here making this confession. This is truly a confession that anybody young in town, I'm here for you because I've been doing it for a long time. I understand how it feels. And I think the problem is like, you take a community like, say, South Central Los Angeles. Those kids up there, like, obviously there's drugs, right? But they don't have the money to buy them like you do in Laguna. You see what I'm saying? Right. So once again, not mentioning names, I can look back when I was 16 and guys were doing things that we need to be doing and had the means to do it 10 times over. So, I mean, pause for effect there, but I think that's a much larger problem there. We got to like stop making it seem like it's so normalized in the community and so normalized at home. Oddly enough, I've never been much of one for it, but the amount of pharmaceuticals going around, right?
Yes, that's a big problem. Yeah.
Yeah, because that stuff's just, sitting there in people's parents' cabinets. One of my ex-girlfriends, she works for Capistrano Valley Unified School District. She's an assistant principal there. And she was telling me that a lot of kids, probably about 6-7 years ago, were having these parties where they basically take a bottle of pills and they all throw them into a big jar, right? And like everyone just takes whatever.
Oh my God.
And quite honestly, that's unimaginable, right? So
you don't even know what you're taking.
Right. But I'm growing up in excess. A lot of people think like, oh, well, we're good. I live in $1 million home and, my kids go to Thurston and, whatever, Annalise. And, that would never happen to me.
I can imagine. And I have friends that have had struggles with that, with their kids growing up through the high school here in Laguna Beach. So any kind of community like this that has money and a party lifestyle. That's the other thing is people come here. It's a resort town. It's a party. It's people come here to have fun. So there's a lot of bars and there's a lot of parties. There's just a lot of fun. So it's very easy to get caught up in that.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that too, because I mean, let's discuss the underbelly a little bit. I remember one time, this is probably about, I'd say, probably 14, 15 years ago. I was actually working down at the Sandpiper. I saw a woman get drugged with GHB. And I got tasked with dealing with her. And I swear to God, Don, that was one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my entire life. Now, think about it. This person just went out here to instantly have a cocktail, or so they think, right? Everyone has good intentions. But who in the hell is this person? I'm not going to say it's a man or a woman that's going to come by and, like, dump something in your drink that you didn't even want, right? I mean, there's that side of things too, right?
Right.
I walk into the woman's bathroom, and this woman literally is like, she fell over the toilet with her dress over her head, and she's a nice lady. I'm not going to even go into who it is, but I'm saying, like, having to try and save her life scared me straight in a lot of ways in regards to a lot of things, because it's like, oh, you don't just flip you over and it's not, I didn't know what to do. I'd never been in front of that before.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm happy that I saw that so that hopefully someone else doesn't have to see that.
Right.
You see, I mean, it's just, there's so many different pathways that lead you the wrong direction. And I think that rather than even say like it's about me or about you, it's just about, we all need to share each other's perspective to lighten that load, to go, okay, if you do something stupid, you didn't just do that stupid. You might have done it that one time, but it's like a piston. Everyone does something weird or dumb to somebody at some point in time.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
And get over it too. You know what I mean? Get over it as well. But I'm just saying that, like, people really need to do a better job of taking care of themselves socially as well. Like, I mean, I don't believe that you need to go in a social setting and start doing drugs with people and all this other stuff all the time. I mean, honestly, I think that's a little archaic. I mean, we've all done it, but doesn't mean you need to continue to do it.
Right.
So it's also a matter of discernment. You know what I mean? You see that you're around some shady people, take off.
Yep.
Go home.
Exactly.
Get out. It's just better for you. Take care of yourself first.
Absolutely. And don't worry about it. Half of those people won't even remember that you were there the next day.
Right. But I mean, especially down there too, because I mean, the pressure now with all like the new people that live in town and everything else,
right.
The pressure's even higher.
Right. There's more money.
Because now, people are, twice as bougie and half the soul. So what does that mean? I mean, how do we even get into that? I mean, it's just, it's sad. Here's the thing. How do we talk about this without talking about homeless people at the same time too, right?
Right. Right.
Odd story here. Again, no names, more respect than that. But there's some guys that I went to school with that I absolutely love. They're just great kids, like cool people now. That I've been out before, and I'll see these guys walk up to me, and they live on the street.
Oh.
And, I've got a decision to make then, right? I'm like, okay, first of all, yeah, I went to school with you, and yeah, I could, blow you off, which is there's a couple ways to do that, though. I could throw you a 20 and, pat you in the ass and tell you to go about your business. I can talk to you. I can do both, or I can avoid.
Right.
I've never avoided a single person that I know, regardless of what's going on with them. Now, I'm also not going to just give you a free pass like, oh, well, too bad, boo-hoo. But I'm going to ask you how you're doing and what you're up to, and then take that update on you from there. And
right.
I say that to say this, Don. There's a lot of people will look and go, okay, well, that guy's homeless, that actually are from town, that his parents have a ton of money, all right, or whatever you want to call it, or have a house on the hill, but they just made a series of mistakes that have distanced them,
yes,
in some way from all that.
Yep.
I also feel it's important for us to understand that, like, in these luxurious communities, if, you want to go out to Sapphire or go to a nice restaurant downtown and have dinner, all the folks that work there, right, in those restaurants, right?
Yes.
They don't necessarily have money, right? But they do spend their time, their holidays, their weekends away from their loved ones in support of luxury,
yes.
right? Now, I have a lot of friends that are chefs. And the thing that's funny about those guys is, it's a blessing to know them because, like, they have a completely different perspective on everything. They live in the limelight of all the rest of this excess, right? But I think that, say, for example, you're somebody who's 40 years old and you've been serving at a restaurant for 20 years.
Right.
Well, they don't really have retirement packages at restaurants if you're a server that's popular around, right? So you're on your feet all the time and you're working late hours and, towards the end of the night, you work till 10 o'clock at night, you're going to go out and drink, and that's a different kind of lifestyle. I know I used to do it. But with that said, those people shouldn't necessarily just be discarded too after they're deemed no longer useful because, they're cool. In other words, it's okay when they're like serving you a cocktail in a bar or letting you in somewhere, but then all of a sudden, like, they become the help when they can't basically be at your beck and call anymore. That's not right. So the Laguna I grew up in, we took people that were homeless, right? Shit, I've almost been homeless myself, right? Yeah. I just call it what it is. Right. But we've embraced them in a different manner to where now it's like people posting pictures of homeless people on the street. Like, oh my God, you see this? My 6-year-old is doing this. It's like, come on, that is life.
That is life. You can't shelter them from not seeing that. Take them to any other city in this world. They'll
Why would you want to?
I know. Well, there are a lot of people, not just here, but there are a lot of people that they think having their kids see that, I guess it scars them for life. But it's... To me, that's sad. They want to raise their kids in a bubble. They don't want to. But the thing is, they don't see any economic diversity at all. Not even just of that scale, but even at a more reasonable scale. They just see the ultra rich, and that's a big problem. They don't see diversity culturally. And I'm speaking of Laguna Beach. It's culturally, it's pretty much one race. It's pretty much one culture, and it's very wealthy, affluent. And that's all they're seeing.
Well, but it's kind of weird. Like, oddly enough, I'm just kind of off topic. But I took Noah. We went to go see family up in Los Angeles, and then we stopped at this place called JJ's Rib Shack. Right. It was the first time my son had ever seen a bum, and it's a fellow black man, whatever. But this guy was like out there, Don. He probably had been smoking crack or whatever.
Oh God.
And to be honest with you, I was very happy that Noah got to see that man because I looked over at my little boy and said, "Hey, look, dude, that's not you."
Yeah, that's not you don't want to be. Yeah,
and that's it because. Yeah, but I also want him to know and have an awareness that the people are different. People do come from different places. People have different sets of problems, so that it's not so like awkward for him when he like later. You think I want him running around like, oh my God, there's a homeless guy? No, thanks. That's not even what we're about. It's not even what we're about. Not at all. So we somehow listen to that.
Absolutely, and posting photos and just shaming it. It's just a way to say, look, they're another. That's who they are. We just want to sweep them away. Not being able to notice that it's actually. Could even happen to some of these people that are posting it. You can be a few paychecks away from possibly being homeless.
Everybody is, regardless of the roads.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right, actually. Yeah. But the funny thing is, what I say to the folks that do that kind of stuff out there, it's like,
exactly.
Look, guys, you can run, but you can't hide. I mean, there's always going to be someone that's homeless or doesn't have as much as you, and that's what you wanted. You got it. Not a big deal. The big thing is that everyone who needs help, if you want help, go to the Laguna Beach Institute of Blind Faith. And reach out to either myself, Shawn Brown, Mr. Ed Cardenas, and hit us up. We're here to help. You can talk to Eric Holsworth also, too. And we're here for you guys and girls. Ladies, you guys, too. This does not exclude women by any means. I'm just saying I wanted to focus in on the men's side of things, obviously, because I'm a man. But we all need to figure out how to just bridge that gap and be here for each other. And, I'm still learning a lot of these things at the same time, too. By no means am I saying that, like, I'm above anything. I'm just in the middle of it, and I wanted to raise my hand and admit that, like, I'm working on my stuff with my own faults and everything else like that. And I'm more than happy to be there for anybody and part of their conversation. And don't be surprised if some of you, I call you and ask you for help with me. Some of you guys have known me for a long time, or some of you women have known me for a long time, too. I might need to call you up and talk about some stuff. So look out. I mean, I just think that we need a little refresher, you guys. We need to give each other a big hug and move forward. So I look forward to it. Yeah,
we do. We need a big hug, move forward. People need to be able to talk about these things, and that's wonderful. And now the recovery service you and Edward Cardenas are running, can they find that on Facebook as well?
Yeah, give me one sec here. Hang on, I'm actually pull up the link so I can actually tell you. While we're on this, can you tell me about your podcast a little bit about Teaspoon of Healing?
Like why I started it, or?
Yeah. Like I just like what happened? What made you start it up?
Well, I mean, this wasn't my first show. I had radio shows on the Laguna Beach's KX 93.5. I had a variety show I was on, Happy Hour. Kind of mirrors this conversation. It was about partying. I was the sarcastic one. There was my friend was kind of the dumb blonde, even though she wasn't dumb. And then there was the guy that was running it. And then I had another show, The Groove Express, which is about local bands in Laguna Beach and in Southern California. And then I left for personal reasons and because I was back in school. And, you know, I had some health scares in my family and with a couple friends. And I come from a healthcare family, but I kind of rebelled against it. I didn't want, my dad's a doctor, my mom's a nurse. And I always was interested in it, but I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with the blood. I don't want to deal. And I was a corporate communications journalist, like UX designer. I did all this other stuff completely unrelated. After having kids and after leaving the radio, I decided I want to go back to healthcare. So I'm back in school and a Teaspoon of Healing. I wanted people to be able to share their healing journeys, whether it's physical healing. Some people talk about healing from cancer, emotional healing, and also healing with food. A lot of it is about nutrition and mindfulness, fitness, but mainly the healing stories. And like somebody like you telling your personal story, that's really, those are my favorite interviews. I do interview experts as well about certain things about, you know, it's more of a holistic alternative health bent. But I'll have practitioners or experts on here. But my favorite ones are people sharing their stories.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you for having me. But listen to me. What I want to tell you is funny. I got to brag a little bit. I did listen to you on the radio. You did a great job. So thanks for that. That was cool. Awesome.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, it was fun. It was a fun 3 years. But
yeah, I get it. I totally get it.
Go back a little bit.
But back to your original question, though, about the recovery services. The group is called, it's within the Blind Faith group. So Laguna Beach Institute of Blind Faith. Any real old school folks know what that means. But within it's called the From Laguna for Laguna Recovery Services. At this time, we are only helping folks that are from town. So the reason being is because we got to clean up our backyard first, right? We only have enough resources to do things for people that are from town, or they don't have to actually live in town anymore, just as long as you're part of the community, whatever. But everything is on a donation basis. I don't have anything to do with the money at all. That stuff, Eddie runs all that stuff too. I'm more on the operational side of things, we'll say. Yeah, really, what we're going to do is actually take like all of the various resources we've been offered and kind of formalize them into a set of services and then publish that. Just we want to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to get out there and get what they need without having to call us. And I feel like I need to say this as well, too, because, you know, obviously I'm one of the moderators or the admins for our groups, but I don't read any of the submissions as far as people asking for help, just to be appropriate, because obviously I know a lot of people, but I don't want anyone to think that any of this stuff turns into gossip, because that's the last thing that I would ever do. I mean, you know, that's make no sense. So we want you to really feel safe and welcome and at home, because for a lot of us, it really doesn't matter where you reside in the world, you guys. Laguna's in the heart, and it always will be, and we're always here for each other. 100%.
That's wonderful that you guys do that for each other.
Well, thank you for helping too. I mean, thanks for getting the word out there. But I mean, I think a lot of cool things are going to come. And
I do too.
I'm pretty sure I'll have a pretty significant update for you soon.
Oh, good. We can have you back on and talk more in the future. Well, thank you, Shawn, for joining me on A Teaspoon of Healing. Is there anything you want to share with our listeners before we sign off?
Just keep it frosty, folks. Love you guys. Have a good weekend.
Okay. All right. Well, take care.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this episode of A Teaspoon of Healing. If you have any questions for me or for Shawn, visit my website, teaspoonofhealing.com. Click on contact and I'll get back to you. You can also email me, dawn@teaspoonofhealing.com, or visit my Instagram @teaspoonofhealing or facebook.com/teaspoonofhealing. And if you haven't been to my website recently, you can check out my blog, download show notes, and there's a lot more to come. So stay tuned for that on the website front. And if you are not a current subscriber on iTunes, please subscribe and leave me a star rating or a review. I'd appreciate it and love it. And stay tuned next week for another episode.
Thank you for listening to A Teaspoon of Healing with Dawn Damari. your home for wellness and vibrant living. For more resources on wellness and vibrant living, visit us online at teaspoonofhealing.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Please consult a physician or other health professional before undertaking changes in lifestyle or wellness habits. The author claims no responsibility to any person or entity for any liability, loss, or damage caused or alleged to be caused directly or indirectly as a result of use, application, or interpretation of the information presented herein.
Hey there, this is Shawn.
And this is Frank Jag from Sensibly Cynical.
And you can check us out on iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite podcatcher application.
Or just be real, you can just Google our name, Sensibly Cynical.
That too.